All right, we are live. It's March 20th, 2018. Today is World Storytelling Day, and this is a Bangalore Storytelling Society's event, and it's called Hangout on Air. This is the fourth time we are doing this, and it's been a pleasure to have people from all over the world coming on this event. For those of you who don't know us, Bangalore Storytelling Society is a storytelling collective of various storytellers who've come together, and we work towards nurturing, promoting, and reviving the oral tradition. Today, we have a very special event lined up. We have some wonderful tellers from different parts of India and the world. And my name is Aparna, and I'm a co-member at BSS. I'd like to now go around the table for a quick introduction of all the tellers who've joined us today on this event. So may I start from clockwise as I see you all. Let's start with you, Janaki. May I request you to unmute your buttons before you introduce yourself, please, and restart, Janaki. Janaki is not able to give her introduction. Let's move on to Lavanya.
Hello, everyone. Happy World Storytelling Day to you all. I'm Lavanya Prasad, a professional storyteller in Bangalore and a core member of the Bangalore Storytelling Society. I'm super thrilled to be here telling stories with some fabulous tellers. And I hope you all enjoy this event as much as I think we all are going to.
Thank you, Lavanya. Let's move on to Tim.
Hello, I'm Tim Shepherd, and I live in the southwest of England, in Bristol. I've been involved in storytelling for many, many years, helping to get storytellers together from all over the world and spread the word about storytelling. I used to run a storytelling performance company and done all sorts of things. I love storytelling. I hope you will too. And a little tidbit before I got into storytelling, and the reason why I did, I was training in circus, and I was trained as a fool. What could be more foolish than that? It's true.
Thank you for that wonderfully revealing introduction, Tim. Thank you. Let's move on to Usha.
Hi, everybody. Happy World Storytelling Day to you all. I'm from Mumbai, the western part of India. I've been a professional spoken word artist for the last 22 years. I'm an amateur puppeteer as well. I started my career into storytelling with introducing my audience to what is Indian classical music with puppets, because I'm a classical Carnatic vocalist as well. And ever since then there's been no looking back. And here I am today. Thank you to Aparna and her team for inviting me to tell stories. And it's a pleasure. Welcome, Tim from England. Thank you.
Thank you, Usha. I'd like to now ask Deepta, my dear friend and colleague from BSS, to give a quick introduction.
Hi. My name is Deepta Vivekanand, and well, I'm still trying to figure out where I'm from, because I was born and raised in Madras. I lived the last 11 years of my life in Bangalore, where I met all of these wonderful people, two of which are on the panel today, and where my storytelling career also began. But now I'm talking to you from Chandigarh, which is in the north of India. So you see, I've been around quite a bit. And this is the fourth year, like Aparna said, that we've done this hangout. And every year, this is one time of the year that I look forward to. So it's great meeting all of you. Welcome.
Thank you, Deepta. With that, let's kickstart. And I'm waiting for this moment. So we have each one of them. lined up to tell a story on a very special theme. And this year's theme has been much talked about. It's no straight theme. We've been having easy themes until now. This time it's been thought-provoking as much as it has been difficult, and to choose a story from. So I'm going to let Tim Shepherd to reveal the theme for us, talk about it from his perspective, and also begin the featured storytelling segment with his own story on the theme.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm delighted to tell you that the theme for this year is the wise fool, which is a paradoxical term, but it's a very ancient term. It comes from directly the mystical tradition, in fact, and it is hidden in so many stories. But the idea is that the person who is innocent in the ways of the world looks foolish to the world. The way they behave does not make sense, but that innocence at the same time opens the mind to receive the wisdom from the divine to guide them in their actions. And this looks very foolish to the worldly, but to the wise and the spiritual, this looks like common sense. So this paradox is really talking about the core essence of what it means to be human in the spiritual essence within, and yet it is hidden in so many stories in very obvious ways. For instance, the youngest son in many fairy tales, who is called a simpleton, who is worthless, and he is the one who goes out into the world and overcomes all obstacles where nobody else can, because divine providence shows him the way. And equally, it is embedded in the ancient myths of Dionysus and Harpocrates in Egypt, and indeed in Jesus Christ, who St. Paul said, "Be a fool for Jesus." The tradition is still there. However, what we find today is that many, many stories have this little hint of the wise fool in there. In the Middle East, you have Nasruddin stories. He is the Hodja who teaches us to behave not according to the ways of the world, because his behavior is ridiculous. And yet he is a mullah, a teacher of spiritual things. So today I will tell you a small story of a mystic, a holy man. And he was walking one day along the bank of a river. And he was thinking to himself, well, he had spent his whole life meditating and chanting and praying, and he was pleased. He seemed to have made quite a lot of progress. He was able to turn away from the world, to put down his passions. He was able to discipline and control his habits, his body, and he's had certain powers, he felt, to overcome the world. Well, he couldn't exactly walk on water, but he did feel that one day he would be able to transcend all of the limitations of the world. And so as he was walking along the bank, contemplating nature, he heard a sound drifting across the water towards him. The sound was meow, meow. It wasn't a cat. He recognized the sound. It was a man. He wasn't sure what was going on. But then he recognized that this was a chant, and somebody somewhere was chanting, for he was on the spiritual path and chanted too. He looked around and he saw that there was a tiny, scrubby little scrap of an island in the middle of the river. That's where the sound was coming from. But you know, this holy man was sad because he realized that this person chanting away was getting it all wrong. This was not the sacred word. This was not the power of the divine that was going to help him achieve whatever he was attempting. What was he to do? Well, it was his duty, obviously, to help. Well, he looked up and down the riverbank, and was it blind luck or was it divine providence that showed him a little boat, a rowing boat, half hidden in the reeds? Well, he got in it immediately and rowed over to the island, all of the time hearing the sound, meow, meow, getting louder and louder. He tied up at the island, he made his way through the bushes, and there he found, well, it didn't look like a man, it looked like a sort of pile of rags. And the rags were mainly holes, and there was hair sprouting out everywhere. This man obviously did not know how to discipline his body. But he tapped him gently on the shoulder and said, "Excuse me, I'm terribly sorry to interrupt you. I heard your chanting. I must tell you, you're getting the sound wrong. The word is wrong. Without this, I'm not sure that it will really help." "Oh, no," said the man. "No, really? After all this time, I'm getting it wrong? Please tell me what to do. Teach me. Show me the way." And the holy man said, "Well, it's very simple. You simply make this sound. "Yes," said the man. "Yes, I get that. Yes, oh, that's good. That is good. I can do that. Thank you so much. Yes, I will. Now I must make up for lost time. Thank you so much." And off the holy man went, very pleased to have helped, and he rowed back over towards the bank of the river. Well, just as he was almost at the bank, he heard the man. He was chanting over and over, but his chanting fumbled and stumbled and faltered and stopped. But it started again. Oh no. Now he had gone back to the old sound of meow. What was he to do? Well, he thought, maybe I should go back and tell the man again and interrupt him again. Or maybe I should leave him to discover his own way. And as he was puzzling over this, he heard a shout. He heard the man shouting, "Oh, please stop, please stop. I got it wrong. I've forgotten the word. Please help me and teach me so that I can get it right." And he looked up to see that foolish old man running towards him over the surface of the water. And that is my story of the wise fool.
Thank you so much, Tim. I think it's a wonderful story, and it's taken me back in time to a guru that we all went to as children. This is called the Bal Vihar classes. Bal means children, and Bal Vihar classes are classes where parables are told and its messages are given. So this was a story I listened to then. It's a very famous story from the Indian spiritual text. And you've just taken me back in time to a beautiful story and a time and place, in many ways, to a time and place I want to be in. So thank you so much for bringing this story to us. And I think it beautifully explains what you talked about as a wise fool. So I will open up the group for questions a little later in the day. But before that, I'd like to just quickly ask one question of my own, which is, where did you hear this story?
Gosh, I do not know, actually. It's obviously not a traditional English story, and I wondered whether I should tell a traditional English fool story, but most of them are quite long. I think I just picked it up from the great oral mess that comes around the world. And it just filtered into my mind somewhere. But I do love that story. It is something that I have told many times.
Thank you. Thank you so much for telling us the story. Now, we will move on to Usha. And Usha, you can please take your time and give a very short introduction to your story, and do tell us your story of the wise fool.
Thank you, Aparna. The story that I'm going to tell you today comes from the neighboring country, the ancient land of Sinhala or Ceylon or Sri Lanka, as we know. Very wise men ruled that kingdom too. And this is from I don't know whether it's a folk tale, the great wise man and his pupils. And I picked up these sets of books when I visited Colombo, maybe in 2012. I love picking up stories from the region because that gives me an insider view to the culture and the people. So when Aparna approached me just barely 2 days back to tell the story about the wise fool, I was just ruminating. I've just come back from a writer's retreat where all I was thinking was about writing about classical music and puppets. So getting back to the wise fool, I just thought this would be a very apt story. And so here it is. Once upon a time in the ancient land of Sri Lanka or Ceylon or Sinhala, there lived a very wise old man. He was so wise and clever that people from near and far came to him to seek his advice and to sort out their problems. And he was called Mahadanamutta. Mahadanamutta in Sinhalese means the one who knew everything. Because Mahadanamutta, the wise one, he knew everything. That's why everyone came to him to solve their problems. Now, Mahadanamutta had 5 disciples. Now, there was something unique and special about the disciples. They were funny. They were funny disciples. They had funny names. So the first one was called Pol Ba Munna because he had a face as round as a half-split coconut. So if you're a Sinhalese, you would understand the name because they are all Sinhalese names. The second disciple, he had a body as thin as a stick, and he was called Kotu Kitaya. The third one was as skinny as a sewing needle, and he was called Indi Katu Pancha. And the fourth disciple had a body, in fact, he had a belly as round and red as a ripe areca nut. And he was called Rabada Ayya. And the fifth one had a belly as long as an areca nut. And he was called Puvak Badila. Now, these were the 5 disciples, and they learnt at the feet of their great master, Mahadanamutta. And you could never find a disciple like them because they're very loyal and obedient. They were so obedient that they did exactly what their master asked them to do. Nothing more, nothing less. And they followed a book of instructions because their book, the manual, was called the Book of Instructions. And in those days, they didn't write a book. They wrote on dried leaves out of the palm leaves, they were dried and then they wrote on it. So the Book of Instructions was written on those dried palm leaves. And the disciples followed whatever was written in the Book of Instructions. On a bright sunny morning, Mahadanamutta, the great wise one, along with his 5 disciples, was walking on the paddy fields. And he was walking on the ridge, followed by his disciples. And one of them, the Rabada Ayya, was carrying the Book of Instructions, very safely guarding it on his head. When suddenly the master slipped and fell into the paddy fields. He fell into a slush, a muddy pool. and he fell down and he was covered with mud. The disciples looked at their master and they began to laugh because they didn't know what they had to do. And the master looked at them and he got angry. He said, "What are you doing? Why are you laughing? Why aren't you helping me get out of this mud?" So they said, "Oh, that's not written in the book of instructions, is it?" So they asked Rabada Ayya to take off his book of instructions, and they opened it and read it from cover to cover to see if there was any instruction. And as they read, there were other instructions about how to cross the river in the middle of the night, or how to prevent the farmer from leaving his footprints on the paddy field, and so on and so forth. But nothing about helping the master when he fell into a muddy pool. So they turned to the master and said, "Oh, great one, there is nothing which tells us how we can help you to lift you or help you out of this muddy pool." Mahadanamutta just lost it and he said, "Get me that stylus." Stylus was this little instrument with which you would write on those dried leaves, what was that? The neem leaves. So the followers, the disciples quickly got the book of knowledge, handed it over to Mahadanamutta. They held it in their hand and gave him the stylus. And Mahadanamutta began to write, "When your master falls into the mud pool, reach out, stretch out your arms, help him and lift him up and save him from that." So he finished writing and he said, "Well, what are you waiting for?" So the disciples looked at each other and said, "Okay, right, here we go." And they all stretched out their arms. They gave it to Mahadanamutta, lifted him out of that muddy slush, and then helped their master into dry land. And Mahadanamutta thought, "Oh my, I have disciples who are so loyal and so obedient." And he said, "I'm indeed fortunate." And the disciples thought, "What a great master we have. He teaches us when he needs to teach us at the time of need." And that's the story of the great wise one, Mahadanamutta and his disciples. Thank you.
Thank you, Usha. That was a lovely story with wonderful Sinhalese nuances that you've added to the whole story. It brings the story of the island alive. One quick question. How did this story connect with you? How did you think that this was the wise foolery that we're all thinking about for the day?
Yeah, because the Indian in the Indian text we have many wise fools. We have Akbar Birbal, we have Tenali Raman, we have others as well. Many, Vikram and Vetal, some of the stories, how does Vikram solve an unfathomable riddle and things like that. And also I thought of A.K. Ramanujam's beautiful folk tale about the husband's shadow, which is also about the wise fool. But that just struck me, today as we were talking. But this story was there and maybe it was waiting for me to open it up and tell this story. So it just came, and I came home last night late. Today morning, I took out the book and I said, "I've never told this story." And it took me an hour or two just to know the names. It's quite difficult to get them and you have to get the right pronunciation. So it was fun. It's fun. And I enjoyed telling that story.
Thank you. It was fun listening, as it always is. Thank you so much. You have dovetailed a story beautifully from Tim's, which was about spiritual masters, and you took it forward with spiritual masters and their disciples. Now let's take it to Lavanya. Lavanya is a very special teller from BSS, and I'm sure she has something wonderful in store for us. Over to you.
Yes. So today my story is something which I had read a long time back. It's from a book called Noodlehead Stories. So they have these beautiful folk tales that is being told from different parts of the world. And this one especially, I've seen it in different countries, but the one which I'm going to tell you today is a folktale that is told in Norway. So there is also a similar version of that, I think, in India as well. So I think mine is going to come out as a mixture of the two. So you would find some of Indian touch to it as well, I believe. So here is the tale that I would want to tell you all. Um, some say this, and some say that. He thought that he was wiser, but she thought she was. But both of them thought the other was otherwise. Long, long ago, in the land of the midnight sun, lived a couple, he and she. He had his faults, and she had her flaws. But the villagers thought that he was wiser and she was the stubborn one. So much so that anything that anybody said, she always did the opposite of what they said. As a result, anybody who just came across her always wanted to go away from her because they know that there was definitely going to be a disagreement otherwise. Like, for example, if the butcher offered her lamb chops, she would ask for pork chops. If the farmer said, I have carrots, she's for sure to ask, don't you have turnips? But poor husband, it was he who was to put up with her stubbornness every day. If he opened a window, she would shut it. And if he shut it, she would go to open it. It was like this every day. For the villagers, some villagers even said, I think you are the wisest and you should be doing something about this. And for all that, he would just say, I wish. But one day, when they were working in the fields, the husband said, I think the corns should be ready for harvest by Wednesday. Of course not. I'm sure it's not going to be ready until Thursday, said the wife. Okay, maybe Thursday. So I will get all the children ready. I will call all the children from the village so that they would be here to help us. No, definitely not. It is going to be only us who's going to harvest, said the wife. All right, I'm not in a mood to fight, but I'm sure that you would at least agree that we could use a scythe for harvesting. No, definitely not. This time I would like to use scissors, she said. Scissors to harvest corn? Have you even ever heard of anybody harvesting corn with scissors? It's going to be really difficult. We'll have to bend down and cut each stalk one by one. Scythe it will be. You heard me the first time. Scissors it will be. No scythe. Scissors. Scythe. Scissors. And the argument went on. She was so irritated. So she just went towards her house, but she was not looking down. She just tripped over a stone and fell into the river that was running beside the cornfield. And as she fell in, the husband ran to just call out to her. But she just looked up from the river, her head up, and she shouted, Scissors! And all he could say was, No, scythe, before her head went again down. The next time when it popped up, she shouted even louder, Scissors it will be, no scythe. And she went under the surface of water. But the next time when her head popped up, her mouth was full of water, and all the husband could see was her hands coming up and said, Snip, snip, which meant as if to him that she was shouting out loud, Scissors. And then she was gone. What a stubborn head she is. What a bullheaded lady she is. But then the husband had to run to call out his neighbors to help search the wife. They looked everywhere, but no luck. It was then one neighbor said, My God, good heavens, you at last got rid of her. The husband was a little sad, but then when he went back home, he just thought, maybe it's not so bad. Because for the first time, he was actually sitting in his house and thinking that there was nobody to tell anything opposite to whatever he said. It was nice indeed. But after a month, when he was having a nice nap in the afternoon, he had a knock on his door. And when he opened the door, who do you think he saw? No, it was not the wife, but it was the king of hell, Mr. Devil. And Mr. Devil looked up at him and he said, "You must be the husband. I'm sure you must be the husband." "Of who?" "Of the lady who does not listen to anything at all." "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So how did she end up in your place?" "I don't know. The river that just leads to a big hole. And one fine day, thop, she was there in our house. And all, oh my God, how did you put up with her? Every single thing and every rule she's ready to break. I plead you, please take her back." And the husband said, "I just can't. She's now yours. It's in your head. She's like that. I had put up with her all these years. Now it's your problem." And he shut the door. The devil was pleading from outside, "Please tell me why is she like this?" "Oh, that's how she is. She always does the opposite." The devil was stunned for a moment, but then he went back with a faint smile on his face. The next afternoon, when he was again about to take a nap, the man, he heard a knock on the door. Ah, this devil! How many times to tell him? And when he opened the door, who do you think he saw? Ah, lo behold, it was the wife. How did you? Why are you here? What happened to the devil? The devil? Oh, it was now her turn to talk matter of factly. She said, "You know what? The guy, the moment I had been going, I mean, I just fell into his house. He's been telling me, you need to go up, you need to go up." And I had this urge to stay with him. But yesterday, out of all days, he just came to me and he said, "You know what? I think I'm so much in love with you. I just want to stay with you here forever." And that was the moment I decided that I would come back to you. And that's why I'm here. The man was out of words. He thought he was wiser. She thought she was wiser. And both of them thought the other was otherwise. Some say this and some say that. But I leave it to you to decide what is right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lavanya. What a lovely story.
Yeah.
Thank you. And yeah, it reminds me of me and my husband. I'm wondering which day the devil will have to send me back.
That is the Indian touch. Everybody will be reminded.
Yeah. My husband too. And to make things worse, he's a farmer. Okay.
Don't you ever go with a pair of scissors to your cornfield, lady. Thank you. Yeah, so that's a really, really good story. How different it is from the other two stories. I was just thinking, we're just on our way. It was a stairway to heaven, I was thinking, and now we are right from hell.
That's right.
Thank you, Lavanya. That was a beautiful story, and it beautifully fitted into this. So the question for you that I have is. What kind of tales from which land do you enjoy the most? This is a Norwegian one from what you said. So what kind of stories do you like from which part of the world?
India. Somehow I connect very much with my motherland, India. So any folktale from India is something I relate to immediately. But when I'm finding folktales like this, I always see an Indian connect to the folktale. I think people are all same everywhere. So when I get to read a Norwegian folktale, which which is very much similar to the Indian counterparts, I always have this feeling. Thank God. So it's the same everywhere. So it's nice. And I have this, my mind immediately connects to the Indian part of any folk tale from any country that I read. So that's the connect I find, I guess. But
Thank
it's
you.
India predominantly, yes. Thanks.
Mhm. So what if the sun doesn't set for 6 months in a year? The wife and the husband cannot stay apart fighting for more than a few hours each, I guess.
That's right.
Thank you. Okay, now we have our next teller, Janaki Sabesh. May I request you, Janaki, to please introduce yourself because we missed that. Introduce yourself and then begin your story on the theme Wise Fools.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, we can. Thank
Can
you.
you? All right. Okay. So I'm Janaki Sabesh from Chennai, and I've been having my own little storytelling unit for the last 4 years. It's wonderful to know storytellers like you, Tim, Usha, Lavanya, Deepta, and Aparna, whose sessions I have attended. And it's really nice to be a part of the World Storytelling Day session here. So I think I'll jump in straight to my story. It's called Munna and the Maharaja. So, in the northern part of India, Shan Chacha was getting ready for making chai for a lot of people around him. And his nephew Munna was busy serving chai to everybody. And suddenly, Munna came running to Shan Chacha and said, "Hello, it's the Maharaja. The Maharaja is here." And Shan Chacha said, "Maharaja, the king? You think he's here in my tea shop?" He said, "Yes, he is. He is the Maharaja." And Shan Chacha ran outside with Munna. And what does he see there? He sees an old man with unkempt hair, unkempt beard, and a very old, tattered shawl around his shoulder. And he said, "Aha, if that is the Maharaja, then I must be the Sultan." Maharajas do wear crowns, don't they? And Munna said, "But you know what? Maharaja kept his crown back in the palace." And that's what he said. He said, "Well, if Maharaja said, so be it." And he said, "Well, what does His Excellency want from people like us, his slaves?" Munna came running to Shan Chacha and said, he wants your best cup of tea. That's what he wants." And he said, "And how do you think this Maharaja is going to pay us? I suppose he must have left his gold, silver, diamonds, everything back in the palace." Munna said, "Yes, yes, Shan Chacha, you're so intelligent, you're so clever, you know everything. Correct, he's left it, but he will come back tomorrow and give it to you." "Can you please give chai, Shan Chacha?" So Shan Chacha looked, and he looked at something that was the leftover of the water in which the rice had been. "What is this to the Maharaja?" He said, "But this is the water in which you cleaned the rice. It's not tea." He says, "It's even better than tea." So he went to the old man who was sitting outside and he said, "Maharaj, Maharaj, here is your tea." The old man looked at some concoction, looked at Munna, looked at it back, and he said, he felt very sad. And Munna suddenly realized that he has mango juice given by his grandmother. So he quickly goes, gets the mango juice, pours it in a glass, and gives it to the Maharaja. And Maharaja drinks it. So Munna goes back to Shan Chacha and he says, "You know what? Maharaja did not like your rice water." And Shan Chacha said, "Hi, hi, what a tragedy. Satya Nas, I am ruined." But he said, "Don't worry, Shan Chacha. I gave him some mango juice which my grandmother had given." And he said, "Oh, clever boy, clever boy." And then a little later, Munna came again to Shan Chacha and he said, "You know what? Maharaja is very, very hungry. His elephant, went midway back to the palace and he's been walking, he's been tired, he's really hungry." So Shan Chacha looks around, takes some stale chapatis, rotis, and gives it to him. Munna says, "But these rotis are for the chickens, not for him." He says, "No, but this is exactly how Maharajas eat their chapatis." So Munna went to the old man. He said, Maharaj, Maharaj, can you please take these chapatis? The old man looked at the chapatis, looked at Munna, looked at the chapatis, looked at Munna, and then suddenly Munna remembered that grandmother had packed a samosa. And he quickly went, took that samosa and gave it to Maharaja. Maharaja was really happy and he was satisfied. Munna went back to Shan Chacha and he said, you know what? Maharaja did not like that stale chapatis. Oh, what a tragedy. Satyanas, I'm so ruined. But don't worry, Shan Chacha. I gave him some samosa, which was packed by grandmother, and I gave it to him, and he was so happy. You clever boy, so clever. And then a little later, Munna came back and said, he's really feeling hot. He said, who? Maharaj, he's feeling very, very hot. Can you please give me a fan so that I can fan him a little bit, some breeze? He said, Shan Chacha said, there is a fan with a lot of holes. It was in between some rubbish. Take that. He said, this is really bad. It's really old and it's got a lot of holes. He said, that's how the sun protects. Please give it to him. Again, Munna went. Maharaja did not like it. And you know what Munna did? He took lots of leaves and made it a big fan and fanned him all the way. And Maharaja slept. He went and said, he did not like that fan. He said, hi, what a tragedy. Satyanas, I am ruined. But don't worry, Shan Chacha. I made him a fan of leaves and he's happy. He's actually sleeping. He said, what a clever boy. A little later, Munna came back to Shan Chacha and he said, he's asking for your horse because he wants to go back to the palace. He has no other means to go back to the palace. He said, he wants my horse? Here, take this. And he gave him his goat. And then he went to the Maharaja and he said, this is all that I could give. Maharaj looked at the goat and looked at Munna. Munna said, wait. He disappeared and he came back. And he came back with a donkey. Dachu. It'll be a slow ride, but you will reach your palace. And Maharaja said, bye-bye. And he went off. Munna went back to Shan Chacha and he said, he didn't want your goat. He said, hi, what a tragedy. Satyanas, I am so ruined. But don't worry. I went and grandmother gave me her donkey and Maharaj has sat on the donkey and has gone by. Oh, clever boy. Maharaj must be very happy with you. Must be coming back tomorrow, right? To take you also to the palace. Munna said, how did you know? He actually said he will send the royal elephant and some soldiers and he will take grandmother and me and we will live with him in the palace. He said, what happened the next day? The next day outside Shan Chacha's tea shop, there's a lot of commotion. There's a lot of noise. What did he see? The royal elephant and some soldiers. And they were helping grandmother and Munna on top of the elephant. And they were actually going to live in the palace. What a tragedy. I am so ruined. Satyanas. And that's how Shan Chacha was really ruined. Hello?
Yes, thank you. So we all went on mute. Thank you so much.
So, yeah.
So I was just wondering how you decided to choose this story. It's, it's a very eventful story. There are multiple levels to the story.
So when you said wise fools, I decided that we could even go for stories which has the wise and the fool. Okay, and I was hunting for some children's books, and this is a very beautiful book published by Tulika and written by a lady called Fauzia Gilani Williams, who's from the UK, and she has it's very beautiful, the way it is done. So there is a lot of element of wise and foolish, and then you finally figure out who was the wise and who was the fool. So that's how I chose. And of course, this can be narrated to children, right? And I thought, why not adults?
Absolutely. I think that's a great interpretation of wise and foolish. And like Tim says, there are many ways and very in which wise foolery can be looked at, and we are fundamentally wise and foolish, but there are times when we can just be wise and times when we can just be foolish. But it's a great way to end this featured storytelling and start the next segment, which is uh, one of its kind, unique activity, which BSS thought we should kickstart this time, and that's a chain story. So what we did was this: we decided that we're going to have the uh, yeah, Janaki, just go on mute, please. May I request you to go on mute? Thank you. So what we decided was that since the theme was such a wonderful theme that we could play around with, we decided to play with it. We sent out a request to all 4 participants today, and we had them create a story based on this theme. And each one of them have actually given a segment of the story. So this story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the beginning, middle, and end has been beautifully stitched together. And it's a lovely story that has been brewing for the past 48 hours. It's got wonderful, wonderful elements to it. And I can't wait to let the bag loose and open. So I'm going to kickstart the story session, but here is a small little twist that we have for the story. Participants, all of you listen. Just one quick layer over what you've done. You all have crafted your story in sequence and given it to us. We will go in the same sequence, but just to make it fun, and this is our version of how we can be wise and foolish at the same time, BSS has decided that it will request each participant to tell their own story in a particular emotion, and that emotion is something that I, as the host of this call, choose. So you will tell your entire script in that emotion, irrespective of the way the story goes. Is that okay for all of you? Please show me a thumbs up if you understand and if you like the whole concept. Okay, good job. I'm glad all of you are in this. So we can't wait to get to this activity. So Lavanya has started the story for us. So it's going to go like this. Lavanya will start, after which we have Janaki, who will continue the story. And then Tim will take it to the next point, and Usha will close the story. So the order is Lavanya, Janaki, Tim, and Usha. In order to keep the continuity of the story, I am going to give you your emotions right away. Here's the only disclaimer. I request you not to think about your emotion, how you're going to say your part when somebody else is telling their story. It's a mandate that you listen to your fellow tellers and not think about your part. Okay, so here are the emotions that we've decided for you guys. Lavanya, we want you to begin the story and tell your entire part very nervously. And then Janaki, we would like you to just be really happy through your entire middle portion. Okay. Tim, you're going to say your part in deep sadness. The entire thing is in total sadness. And Usha, you're going to be very angry as you finish the story. I hope you all like your emotions.
Yeah.
So it's just sinusoidal. I thought we should start with a nervous and then a high with a happy and then a sad and then a high with an angry. Okay. So I'm going to now go on mute and I will return once the entire story is over. I request the order to go like this. Lavanya, followed by Janaki, followed by Tim, followed by Usha. Thank you all for doing this and amusing us with this fabulous activity. We enjoyed thoroughly putting it up and we hope our viewers enjoy listening to it. Lavanya, over to you.
Yeah. Okay, so nervousness it is. The kingdom of mood and mati. It was very frantic with excitement, you know. the unique name that was given to the kingdom. It was given by a celestial being. When he visited the kingdom very, very long years ago, he was wondering, can there be a kingdom with equal number of intelligent people and equal number of foolish people? Uh, he exclaimed, really amazed, But and then he decided, I will christen this place to be Mood and Madi. Mood and Madi, as in the kingdom of wise and the foolish. Uh, the king, I should tell you, he was very super proud about his whole kingdom and his subjects too. But one day, as he was sitting with his daughter and relishing on the sweet mangoes, she asked a question that nobody had asked in the kingdom before. And this was the question that she asked: can there be a fruit in this kingdom, Papa, which is sour and sweet at the same time? Can there be something like that in this kingdom? This is the kingdom of the wise and the foolish. So it has to be only either sour or sweet. But why is this fruit very sweet and sour, Papa? That single question, it just led to a competition, and the king announced the competition. And you know what that was? It was the competition to choose the wisest fool in the kingdom. And that is why everybody in the kingdom was very frantic with excitement. Oh my God. Brinjals, give me brinjals, brinjals, and also give me potatoes. You know what? I should be eating food that has got the right diet, said Buddhu. And this Buddhu, I should be crowned the wisest fool, You give me both, he said. But there was somebody who said, remember to eat fatty fish, and before you go to bed, don't forget to drink donkey's milk. Oh, Kurmai. He was telling it to Kurmai, and Kurmai said, yes, I will remember to drink donkey's milk, and I will also remember to eat fatty fish. If you're wondering who Buddhu and Kurmai are, those two are the finalists in the kingdom. Buddhu was the most foolish man in the kingdom, and Kurmai was the most intelligent man in the kingdom. And now they both were getting ready for the finals. Tomorrow will be the finals after the final test. Dum 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 dum. Announced the king's announcer, and everybody was getting ready. The wait was really long, I say. It was really, really long. Oh.
Buddha told his wife, everyone knows I am a fool. All I need to do is to look wise. And so saying, he asked his wife, go, get me that expensive shawl, which I normally keep for some very special occasions. Can you please get it? And as he draped his shawl over his shoulder, he said, everybody knows I am a fool, but look at me. I look like the wisest man in the kingdom. Don't I look wise now? And his wife said, she couldn't stop giggling. Kurmai, on the other hand, paced up and down in the veranda. He went up and he came back, and he went this way and he came back that way, and he went this way and came back that way. And he was thinking very hard, how do I imbibe some foolish virtues? He called his cook, come here. And he said, I want a very big vessel. The cook was a little confused and he said, vessel? Oh, sure. I will get you a vessel. And when he got the vessel, he was shocked. His master took out his shiny turban, which he normally wears, and he kept it down and put the vessel on his head. The cook fainted. The cook fainted.
Well, the cook sadly woke up again. He said, Master, thinking to please him, no one could ever mistake you for a fool. Oh no, said Cormai, the wisest man in the land. You're right, I need something more. He dismissed the cook and paced up and down again, lost in thought, until he tripped over a small pile of dung left by some impertinent animal. Cormai was outraged. Why had this not been cleared up? But then he stopped. He wisely asked himself, what is the most foolish thing I could do right now? Cormai immediately knew the answer, but everything in his wise head rebelled. He couldn't. But he was determined to win the contest and to look foolish with his wisdom. He scooped up the dung in one hand and lifted the pot off of his head with the other and slapped the dung onto his own head and put the pot back on. His eyes wide and wild at this new experience. Cormai never knew that he would never be more ready, and so he set out for the palace.
Ayo! What is this heavy thing on my head? What's come to me? Kurmai strode angrily out of his house towards the palace gates, and all the crowd, all the people from the kingdom, from the far corners, had gathered to see who would be judged as the wisest fool. And Kurmai, here he was with the cow dung dripping down his face and the bucket dangling on his head, and he could barely see where he was going, and he was full menace. Was he angry? But he looked at the people around him, and they were smiling and laughing and pointing their fingers and whispering to each other and saying, oh, look at Kurmai, isn't he funny? And Kurmai, through the slits of his eyes, he could see Budu wrapped in a lovely, a beautiful brocade shawl. And he thought, look at the fool. He looks so smart. And look at me. Oh, what did I think of myself? And he set out, and as he reached the palace gates, he saw the princess and the king who were standing in the balcony and looking at the scene that unfolded before them. And here was Kurmai with the dung dripping on his face, the bucket dangling in a very funny manner, and he wasn't wearing his turban, which was beautiful, but this was a different hair get-up. And Kurmai looked up, and he saw the princess smile, laugh out aloud. She turned to the king and she said, Dad, Kurmai looks so funny, ridiculous, isn't he? With that headgear on his head. He is funny. And look at Buddhu. Buddhu doesn't look any different. He just looks smart. I know he's Buddhu, but Kurmai is unrecognizable. He's certainly the wisest fool in the kingdom.
Thank you. Unfortunately, from this story, I come to know that you have to be wise to begin with to be known as wise fool. And I guess that just disqualifies me because I started off as a fool. So that we have to be Kurmai to become the wise fool. Thank you. That's a great interpretation of the story, Usha. Thank you. And I saw how difficult a wonderfully happy human being like you was finding the angriness the whole story. Tim, you really sounded sad in Bristol.
It's still very cold there.
Yeah. So
It's snowing, yes.
Janaki, we don't need any marijuana, even if they legalize it in India. Clearly, you were on a high.
Absolutely.
Lavanya, now I know how you look before every one of your exams.
You know, interestingly, Lavanya sent me a message just before we started. She said, "Do you know the stories that everybody is doing today? I'm really jittery right now." And see what she got.
You girl, you girl.
Thank you so much. Deepta and I have thoroughly enjoyed this activity, and I'm sure every viewer will. So you've really been, you've just shed all the inhibition that all of us are known to shed, and you've come on alive on air. Thank you so much. I'd like to just go around the table once for your quick last final thoughts about what you thought about what your thoughts are about World Storytelling Day and about this event, and then we will close it for the day. So may I start with Tim, please?
Yes. Okay. Well, it's really a wonderful event because the storytelling is all about bringing people together. Storytelling breaks down the boundaries between people. It unites people. It reminds them of their humanity, and there's nothing better than to tell stories across boundaries, across any kind of boundaries, different kinds of people, different nations, different types of personality and everything. So I really enjoyed this World Storytelling Day event. And I know that around us, all over the globe, there are people doing their bit to spread stories. I hope that it will bring people together, not just storytellers and story listeners, but spread that wisdom that we have talked about, but in the most foolish way, as we have demonstrated, I think, quite well today in many ways. And for those of you listening, you didn't see all the foolishness that happened before we started. That was quite something too. So thank you all, and I'm very proud to be part of this event.
Thank you so much, Tim. You've been really kind to accept our invitation, and it's a pleasure to have you. We hope to hear from you more often, and please keep giving us all the wisdom and the foolishness all wrapped up in stories. Thank you. Let's move on and hear from Usha about her closing thoughts on this.
That sure was a surprising twist, Aparna. I least expected it because I barely wrote the ending just an hour or two back and trying to tear my hair out. Like Tim said, you don't know what went behind the scene. I literally went absolutely, I would say, kind of angry as well that I had to do in such a limited time. And to bring out anger is not easy. To display it on screen. Yet I enjoyed because I like that surprise because when I go around doing a workshop, I do throw that to my students or my audiences. So I like that challenge, and I enjoyed it. And it's, after all, about a wise fool day. Even if I looked foolish and didn't kind of pull off that anger bit. But what the hell? It was fun, wasn't it? And
Oh, yes.
Kurmai had to be the wise one. After all, Kurmai in Tamil, Tim doesn't know, but Kurmai means sharpness. One is of sharp intellect, I guess. I hope I'm right? So I think what a fun day. I really enjoyed. Brought out the child in me. And I think that's what storytelling attempts to, connects you to the audience. And it was wonderful to connect with all you lovely storytellers across India. And Tim, of course, beautiful. I just loved the session. Thank you, Aparna, for inviting me.
Thank you so much for coming on air. And yes, wise foolery it was, all the way from the word go. Thank you, Usha. Janaki, may we have you on air with your closing thoughts, please?
Yes. Thank you so much. Okay, can you see me? No. 1 minute.
We can see you. We can see you.
Oh, okay. Okay. So thank you so much, Aparna and Deepta, for including me in this session. And it really feels nice because we are all wired for stories. I think stories are those little bridges we make, and we make it so easily because it's so in us. We've all been wired for stories, whether it's a corporate, whether it's a personal life, or whether it's with children, or whether it's with millennials. You name it, and stories are the best way to connect. And it's so beautiful connecting with Tim, Usha, Lavanya, and of course, Aparna, you and Deepta. And thank you so much for inviting me. And I love the twist, and I'd like to be happy. I think the rest of the evening is going to be very happy.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And it was fabulous having you. We met you on air for the first time, and we enjoyed having you.
Yes.
Thank you, Janaki. And the last and final person to give her closing thoughts before we close for this evening.
Okay, so yes, the twist was amazing. And what a nice thing, Deepta. Thank you so much, Ma. Giving me nervousness, and it was very nice because I would like to add something. My college mates called me steam engine in college because before every test I used to oh my god, or before I had to get into the lab for any experiment, oh my god, happened. So it was nice. I mean, nervousness just came in and I was able to let it out also. So thanks so much for that. And it was wonderful to tell and share stories. Like somebody said, a story is the shortest distance between any two people. So I think the distance was, made even shorter, and we all came together and connected as wonderful people here today. So thanks so much. And BSS is very close to my heart. So I'm very proud. I'm a very proud member of BSS and happy to have been here and shared stories with great tellers like you all. So thank you so much, Janaki, Tim, and Usha, for being here and making it a wonderful event. Thank you so much.
Okay, so with that, we come to the close of a fine evening where we shared stories about wise fools. This is 2018 World Storytelling Day, and we hope the whole world listens to the beautiful stories that came out of today, and keep listening from Bangalore Storytelling Society. I'd like to say a big thank you and a bye-bye to all of you. Thank you for joining us. We're going to stop the broadcast now, and we all wish you a very happy storytelling day. Enjoy until we meet again. Bye-bye and namaste.
Link will be available if you want to catch it on YouTube. It's going to be there forever. So it'll be there. We'll share it with you very soon. Right.